Hi everyone, welcome back to our January Jumpstart. So today is day 6, I believe. And today, after we've been so busy all of this week, I thought we'd slow things down a little bit. So today I thought we would look at one part of the mantra that we've been using that we might have overlooked. And that is the bit about bowing. Okay, so when I think of bowing, I don't think of like some medieval stuff of peasants bowing to the Lord or the King or something. I'm wondering if it's a bit more like acknowledging something that's a bit bigger than you, for example. So, as we've been talking about wisdom and the inner teacher, the teacher within, or the subtle stuff that we were looking at yesterday, I wonder if we can bow to whatever is in there, whatever there is to learn from that. So today it's going to be a bit slower. You can see my blocks over there. If you have blocks or maybe some nice big thick sturdy books or some cushions that are nice and supportive, feel free to use those. And we'll be holding the poses for a little bit longer today. So we're going to hold poses for about 2 minutes. So this is more of a yin yoga session. As ever, go at your own pace, respect your limits, bow to your knowledge, and enjoy. So we start seated in our cross-legged posture, and we can close our eyes. And once again, tune in. Breathing in through the nose, and let's sigh that out through the mouth. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose, sigh that out through the mouth. And let's return to breathing in and out through the nose and just seeing what's there. Bowing to the inner knowledge, just knowing. Here's our mantra for the week. Ong Namo Gurudev Namo. Ong Namo Gurudev Namo. Ong Namo Gurudev Namo. I bow to the subtle divine wisdom. I bow to the teacher within. I bow to the subtle divine wisdom. I bow to the teacher within. I bow to the subtle divine wisdom. I bow to the teacher within. And let's take a few more breaths, just following the breath, noticing where it comes into the body, how it flows through the body, and then noticing how it leaves the body, how it travels back through the body. So if your eyes were closed, please just let them flutter open. And we're going to begin with our first pose. So let's have our legs stretched out in front. If your legs don't straighten, it's absolutely fine to, I'm just setting my timer so that we're not here till next year. It's absolutely fine to pop a blanket or maybe another yoga mat or a cushion under your knees. We're going to be here for about 2 minutes, so it's wise to be comfortable. And if you find that it's uncomfortable for you to sit like this, if you do have a block or a cushion, you can sit up on your block. If it's one of these and your bum is uncomfortable, just fold your mat over on top of it. So let's begin with our first pose. We just have our legs stretched out in front. Let's lift up to reach up. And as we breathe out, just walk the hands forwards to a point that is comfortable. Let the feet be relaxed. We hinge forwards from the hips and we keep the spine long, we keep the neck long. So in this pose, we are literally bowing forwards, as if we're bowing to ourselves and our own innate inner knowledge. What are we learning from this pose? Maybe it's just that your hamstrings are a bit tight, the back of your thighs. If that's the case, you can bend your knees and put a block or a support underneath. What do you notice about folding your body in on itself? We are facing ourselves in this pose. About 30 seconds to go. What else are you noticing? What is here? Last few breaths in this pose. As we breathe in, let's bring ourselves up to seated. And then we can bend up our right knee and bring the foot as close as it can get to the left thigh. If this is not comfortable, it's fine to have the foot a bit further out. If your leg doesn't like to be bent, it's okay to have the leg straight. We're going to do a forward fold with the right leg bent. So again, let's just walk forwards. And if this is not comfortable, it's fine to have blocks or supports. You can just rest your elbows on them. Remember, the blocks have 3 different settings. Make it work for you. What are you bowing to in this pose? What is here to be found? And just let yourself settle in. As the time and the pose progresses, if you're using blocks, you may find that you can put them aside. Bowing to your own wisdom and bowing to how your body is today. Maybe noticing the stretch a little bit more along the outside of the right hip and the inside of the left leg. What information is your body giving you? What can you acknowledge? About 20 seconds left. Following your breath, learning about your body through your breath and about your breath through your body. Let's breathe in, and as we breathe out, we come back up. We can straighten out the legs, bend up the left leg. So I'm going to turn around, so I'm still facing you. So left foot comes into the right thigh, or again it can be further out or even straight, whatever's more comfortable for you. Have your blocks handy if you need them. As we begin on this side. So already I am bowing to my slightly tender right hamstrings. I know and acknowledge that I can't go much further into this pose without actually hurting myself. So I'm bowing to that knowledge and just taking it nice and easy. And as we move deeper into the pose, I'm realizing that the back of my thigh is a stronger sensation than the sensations I felt with the other leg. So I'm acknowledging and accepting my limitations on this side. And that's kind of a relief. Just knowing that I don't have to push and push and push. I can bow to my current limitation and feel quite a lot of release from that. Just knowing that what I'm doing is right. Let's take our final few breaths in this pose. Breathing into whatever is there. Breathing out whatever needs to go. And let's breathe in as we come back into our centre. Let's have our feet in line with our hips and our hands behind our hips with the fingers pointing towards them. Let's just lift up. And then we can bring it all the way back down. Let's have the feet about mat width and just rock from side to side. This is a little preparation for the pose we're going to do next. So we're coming into what's known as pigeon in Yang Yoga, normal Hatha Yoga, or swan as it's known in Yin. So I'm going to show you the options first of all. If you know that you have dodgy knees and putting lots of pressure on your knees isn't that good. Option 1, you can sit with your hands behind you or sit up against a wall. Have your legs straight. Place your right foot over your right knee or just above, and then bend your left knee. See if you can flex the right foot so you can point the toes and then bring the toes back towards your shin. And this gives you a lovely stretch in the outer right thigh. If that doesn't appeal, you can do the same thing with the legs, just lying down and bring the left knee into the chest. Have the hands around the left thigh, or if you're up for more of a stretch and your body is comfortable with it, place your hands around your left shin. If you are, my stomach's growling because it's lunchtime. If you are happy to have a go at full pigeon, let's come into our downward facing dog. Let our hips come up and back. You may wish to lift up the right leg and then bring the right knee just outside the right wrist. Send your left leg back. Keep on the ball of your foot and then look back. Make sure that your heel is pointing upwards We want to have our hips pointing forwards as much as possible without leaning from one side to another. If there's a gap here, again, trusty block. If your leg is like mine, then you don't really need to flex your foot, but if your leg is parallel to the front of the mat, then please do flex your foot. So I'm going to straighten out my left leg and make sure that my heel is pointing upwards. I've done enough talking, so let's begin. Any pain in the knee, the right knee, please come out of the pose and go into one of the options that I gave you. So here, we can certainly bow to our limitations. I'm up on my fingertips at the moment, so I'm coming down onto my palms. And maybe if it's comfortable to come down onto the elbows. Maybe you wish to lie flat, making sure that your hips are roughly level and that they are centered without leaning to the left or to the right. You are in the center. And you can let the head hang. You can even support the forehead on a block. And feel into what's happening here. There's a lot of acknowledgement of what's going on in this pose. Is your ego making you do something that's uncomfortable? Is your ego stopping you from taking one of the alternatives? Maybe not bowing to your ego is a good idea in this pose. We're nearly done. Take a final few breaths in this pose. Let's take a nice deep breath in. Breathe out. And then if your hands were in front of you and you're in the full pose, please bring your hands under your shoulders or thereabouts. Slide your right foot back. And then whichever version you were in, please meet up. Let's all meet up in downward facing dog. And just pad out the feet. See how it goes. Notice the difference between one side and the other. And then let's lift up the left leg. And then bring the left knee so it's just behind the left wrist. And the right leg stretches out behind. And keep reaching and reaching and reaching until the knee is on the floor and the heel points up. So please feel free to take the options, this time on the left. Either lying down or sitting up. And again, we can bow to whatever feels right in this pose. Not because you want it to be right, but because it's simply there today. Bowing to and acknowledging whatever is going on at this moment. And it does feel kind of freeing to just bow to stuff and say, yeah, that is actually what's going on. Does mean putting your ego aside, which can be quite hard, but accepting that, that's quite liberating. How are we doing? Noticing the difference between each side and acknowledging that your body might be a bit wonky because we're not exactly the same on each side. We may use one side more than the other. One side may be tighter than the other. You may be carrying an injury. Let's simply be aware of what our body is telling us and work with it instead of against it. Let's breathe in, and if you are in full pitching, let's bring the hands back up to the legs. Bring it back into a very, very necessary downward facing dog. Ooh. Pad out the feet. So if you were in one of the other poses, please join us in downward dog and have a good, take your dog for a walk. Okay, this time let's come down to our knees, and we can bring the right leg around to the front. So you may wish to pad your back knee. I'll switch this off because it's going crazy. And a neat way to do that is to simply fold up your mat as many times as you need to cushion your knee. We're going to be kneeling for a couple of minutes on each side. So, if you're on your back knee, instead of just kneeling right on the top of your knee, see if you can just slide forward so you're on just above the top of your knee. It takes some of the pressure off. Our front foot, we can bring that out to the very edge of the mat, and this is where blocks can be very helpful. Yeah, we're going to hang out here for 2 minutes. I'm going to start the timer. Ooh. So, what is it about him in this pose? Probably quite a lot. There will be a lot of sensations. I'm going to turn my blocks down to the next setting. And resist the temptation to come down onto my elbows. If you wish to do that, feel free. If you want to have your arms on the floor, feel free. But today I'm just bowing to the fact that I don't want to push too far. So I'm keeping my left hip tracking forwards and my right hip tracking back. And just seeing what's here. This is quite intense. I'm keeping my knee pointing forwards. And tuning into what's there. So as the pose evolves, and my body evolves with it, I can lower the blocks to their lowest setting. And just enjoy that today. Not pushing, not trying too hard. Final few breaths in this pose. I know we have the other side to do. We are bowing to our preferences, our limitations, and just our general dislikes at the moment. So let's just straighten out the right leg as you bend the left knee even more. Oh, oops, click forwards and backwards, forwards and backwards. And then we can help the right leg to come back, or just swing it round to the side. And then left foot comes forwards. Grab your blocks if you have them. Make sure that you're cushioning the right knee if you need it. And let's settle in again. Another option for your knee is to come up on your heel and just turn the foot out to the side. That can get you more deeply into your groin as well. I'm going to keep my feet and my knee pointing forwards today. I'm just bowing to something that I don't normally do. Keeping my hips pointing forwards. So the right hip points forwards and the left hip points backwards. And just feeling into what's here. Altering the height of the blocks. And enjoying the sensation of sensation. Bowing to what's here. Just bowing to how I feel today. Again, if you wish to bring your arms all the way down to the floor, or have your forearms on your blocks, feel free. Evolve as the pose evolves. Final few breaths in this pose. Let's breathe in. We can move the blocks to one side. And let's straighten out the left leg. Just bend and straighten. And let's bring ourselves back into our tabletop. We can come forwards, so we're in a supported plank, and then bring our elbows right the way back. Roll them back and down, and let's place the tops of the feet on the floor. We have our elbows slightly in front of our shoulders, and we press down into the floor, lifting up the chest, rolling the shoulders back and down, keeping the head and the neck in line with the rest of the spine, so no cranking the neck upwards. Excuse me. So this is our Sphinx pose. What are we bowing to in this pose? Being mindful of your lower back. If you can release the tension in your glutes, your bum cheeks, please do. If your lower back is a bit cranky, then it's fine to keep some tension there. Maybe if your lower back is comfortable, you can send your hands out to the side and straighten your elbows. If this is not comfortable for your lower back, then please just bend your elbows and bring your hands back to the original position. Bowing to your body's needs rather than your ego's needs. Keep reaching out through your big toes. Acknowledging the sensations in your spine. Final few breaths in this pose. If your elbows were straight, please bend them and bring them back to the floor. Let's bring the hands under the shoulders. We're going to lift up into tabletop and then bring the toes together and the knees about mat width apart. And let's sink our hips back into child's pose. So if your hips are quite up in the air, feel free to pop a cushion or a block between your hips and your heels and just settle down. So this is a bowing pose. We are literally bowing to the floor or towards the floor. If your forehead doesn't reach the floor, again, let's use a block or a cushion to just support. And see what's here. What is the pose teaching you? What can you acknowledge from this angle? This proximity to the floor, to the earth. Let's take a few more deep breaths, sending the hips as far back towards the heels as we can. And then as you breathe in, let's bring the hands up towards the legs. And we are going to lie down. Moving my blocks out of the way. Good. So let's just lie ourselves down. Bring the right knee into the chest. And then with the left hand on the outside of the right knee, let's encourage it over to the left. There's my block. If your knee doesn't come down to the floor, or if you just wanted to rest a bit today, you just let the knee rest on the block. Left hand can be straight out and the right hand can be up above your head if you wish, or you can have your arms out at shoulder height, maybe with the elbows bent, or stretch them out. Entirely your choice. And let's just breathe and notice what's here. So I'm bowing to using the block today. And just letting my leg rest. And acknowledging that it's actually quite nice to use the block. And feeling the sensations in the lower back of the twist. And of the opening on the right side of the rib cage and torso. Bringing the left hand to the outside of the right, the inside of the right knee to bring it back into the centre. I'm going to make sure that I'm nicely centered again as my right leg straightens out. Good. And then left knee into the chest, moving my block. Right hand to the outside of the left knee as I reach and twist over to the right. So I'm going to keep my right hand on my left knee, and this time again stretch the left arm up. Remember, you can have goalpost arms or stretch them out. I'm going to go for this stretch again. And I stretch through the torso, reaching up. And just bowing to whichever preference you have today for your arm position. Noticing the sensations. And acknowledging if I need to move, if something's not very comfortable. Bowing to what my body is telling me. moving the block away with the right hand on the inside of the left knee, and come back through to centre, lower the left arm, and then bring everything in. Have a little rock from side to side, maybe circle the hips, one direction and then the other. And then coming back into stillness. So we can come into our relaxation pose with our feet about mat width, the hands out to the side, palms up, or if that's uncomfortable for your lower back, feet about mat width again and the knees touching. Or feel free to sit up. I'm going to stay in this pose, which is called constructive rest in yin. And just breathe. Noticing and acknowledging my preferences and needs today. Noticing what my body needed rather than what my ego wanted. Bowing to the sensations as we looked at yesterday, both gross or strong, and the subtle ones, the less obvious ones. Let's take 3 more deep breaths. And if you are lying down, we can bend up our knees, move the hips over to one side and then roll over, using your top hand to support you to sit up, and then we sit up. So let's take a moment to settle. And then breathe in, reach up, breathe out, hands to heart. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Thank you so much for joining me today for another instalment of January Jumpstart. I believe tomorrow is day 7. So I think we'll have a nice little mashup of all we've done this week. Until then, have a great day. Namaste.